Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Cathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
Hey, how you going?
Hello, Cathy. Season 3, here we are.
Here we are.
Woohoo.
Well, not really stranger. We
No.
talk all the time.
I know. We do. It is. It's weird, isn't it? Because then you have to, we've been chatting off mic and then you're like, season 3, bring the energy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we've already been talking.
I know.
But
and then we're like, no, save that for our chat.
Yeah, save it. We want it fresh. Stop talking to me. Yeah. It's all content.
It is. It is. So what have you been up to?
Oh, well, I suppose it's quite big news in the sense that my contract at News Corp is finished. And it was potentially going to be renewed, but it was not, for a variety of reasons. I don't think anyone would be surprised to hear that the world of journalism is, it's going through a bit of a tough time currently. And I guess there's not a lot of money around. And I was working as a night editor for KidSpot. It was very interesting. I learned a lot.
And you do love writing.
I love writing.
All of the things.
Yeah.
There's a whole aspect of that role that you loved, I'm sure. And there's parts that were not so much fun.
Yeah, correct. So the parts that weren't so much fun was the evening shift was hard. It was hard on the family and I was tired a lot of the time just from, staying up late and then going to bed late and getting up early with the kids, etc. So look, it is what it is. I am now saying that I am on a sabbatical because we're going overseas in a few weeks' time. So there's not really much opportunity to look for work. And when does one get the opportunity to just go, well, you know what? This is a bit of a gift because I was thinking in my mind I was going to be working up until when we left. And now that I'm not, do you know what I did today? I sorted my sock drawer. And that was a thrill. And I say that and I mean it. I genuinely mean it. It was like quite thrilling to throw out some holy old socks that I've been looking at. So I'm taking it as a win and trying to be positive. Of course, I feel a bit nervous because, of course, not having work is like I haven't been in this position since Leo was little. So anyway, that's okay. I'm okay with it.
And I think we also worry that our currency will disappear. Like,
God, 100% at this age, especially, right? You think,
we think, we have to be out there, we have to be hustling, we have to be pushing, we have to be doing all the things. I guess if I can give you any, hope.
Please do. As a successful employed woman in her 50s.
I'm an employed woman. Let's not.
You've got a great job, Cathy. Yeah.
I do have a great new job.
Yeah.
But I had close to 15 years out of the workforce. And when I came back casually. I was in a call center. I was taking inbound calls and it was very casual. It was very, and it was for New South Wales State Emergency Service. So I was taking when people would ring up and say, there's a tree fallen on my house or whatever, I was taking those calls.
Wow.
And then slowly it was like, okay, I'm ready for a bit more and I'm ready for a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And, that found me eventually with you at Mamma Mia and in the role I'm in today, which is actually quite a senior role compared to where I started only in 2018, which when I think about it, it's only
6 years, which is nothing in midlife.
It's really like the tiniest amount of time. And actually I've only been in full-time employment since kind of mid-2020. So really just coming on to 4 years. So I guess I'm trying to say don't panic.
Thank you.
That you might be out of that paid employment for, 3 months, 4 months or whatever, it's that's a blip in the radar,
Yeah.
you know?
I think you're right, and I think it's good to see other women like yourself who have, come back from big breaks, and I've come back from break before, knowing that it is definitely doable. And I think we're all guilty of it, right? So you go, oh, I'm not employed right this minute, but you forget that 5 minutes ago I was employed, and I've had, decades of employment history, and it's very easy to kind of tie that to your self-esteem and go, oh, no one's going to want me or what have you. But I'm trying hard actually not to do that and to remain positive. And also, just take the time, because when will this, I just don't know when exactly it will happen again. Look, who knows? It could be months, it could be years, but I doubt it. I feel like there's opportunities out there, and I feel like this time I really want to think about it. I feel that digital media has been very interesting place to be, but it has slammed me. And I feel pretty tired with it, with a lot of that lifestyle. I think maybe now is a good time to reflect upon what I actually want, what aligns with my values, all those big questions that, we don't always get the chance to think about when you're just desperately searching for jobs. And I recognize my privilege in that, right? So,
and doing the hustle.
Yeah, the hustle.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And exactly, I mean, yes, I was out of the workforce for a long time, raising children and then recovering. And there is an incredible amount of privilege in that. And I absolutely recognize that not everyone has those opportunities. But if you can take the time now to really reflect on what it is that you want and what matters to you going forward, like what is it that is going to fulfill Laura going forward into the next chapter. Take those moments to really reflect, write that book that you want to write.
I know, right? I should write the book.
Whenever do you find the time to do that? I mean, we did speak to an amazing author who has an incredibly busy life.
I know, I was exhausted after that chat.
And she writes in 15-minute blocks.
Yeah, I know. It's very inspirational.
Writes in 15-minute blocks, and that's how she gets it done. I think that's probably the only way that I will ever do it. I can't see me sort of doing it in any other way. But, yeah, like if you could really take that time and work out what it is that aligns to you. And I will say, because I am working in the world of cyber, and so I'm sort of learning so much about AI and generative AI and super AI and all the things
that are affecting
that
this industry
kind of coming at us. If there's any piece of hope in that, again, the creatives are going to be the people that we still need. We need creative thinkers. We need creative writers. We need artists. AI can't do creative because
original thought.
Like that. Original, like we can train AI to do a whole lot of things. We can train AI to read a speech of a politician and give you a news article about that. But it's going to be a very factual news article. It's not going to be very personal. It's not going – and, again, there'll be people that will come at us and say – or come at me that will say, but we're training AI to do that. And we are.
Like the Instagram roasts that we were talking about.
Oh, no. Please, people stop doing that. You are training AI. Every time people do that, they're training AI, right?
To be funny.
They're giving it more information. They're giving it more to train it. But we need to think about how we want AI to work for us. And so there'll be always places for creatives as long as we think outside the box.
Yeah, look,
yeah,
I do hope so. I think it is going to be a very big change in the next little while. Things like the fact that Cosmo Australia has relaunched. I thought that's interesting, isn't it? That maybe because of AI, it will almost be, there's only so much content people want to consume that's been written by a bot, I'm assuming. I mean, I personally I'm happy to kind of get news bites or something in the way that you get it from Twitter or whatnot, but I wouldn't want to read opinion pieces from a robot that's never lived, etc. So I think it is interesting. Maybe there will be a bit of a 180 back to some old school slow media. I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious about it.
You know, like those deep dives, those mini pieces, those big pieces that both you and I have always wanted to write.
Yes.
And,
like, you know, books by robots personally doesn't interest me, because if you haven't lived, then what have you got to say, really? Like, you know, it's fine to read the news to me, but so I think there's definitely scope for a bit of I hope, a bit of a resurgence of the old school.
But I think you will use your time, I'm sure. I know you've got a lot planned. And
the other sock drawer will be very tidy.
Yes. The other sock drawer.
Yeah, the bra drawer. I've got the bra drawer.
And you will get rid of all of your anklets, I'm sure.
Oh, my God. Do you know what I did? This is a genuine sock story, because I know that we have different views on this. But I have put my ankle socks in a little side pocket of my workout, where my workout clothes are, because I know I'm going to come back to them, right? But I just need a moment to play with the whole other sock. I'm more of a quarter crew girl. I'm not the full pull-ups. I can't go there. But yeah,
I did actually see them described as like anklet socks that sort of sit, you know, below the shoe line, and then you've got the, you know, the
quarter crew.
Kind of crew. It's like someone said that the current fashion is to try and make us look shorter, because
it totally does.
On a short girl, like, I'm not a tall
we
girl.
We need that ankle exposure.
I need every part
I know.
of
it's confronting.
My leg to make me look longer, as tall as I possibly can. And as soon as I put any kind of crew, even if it's a quarter crew or like anything that's much above the shoe line, my legs look like they're half the size that they actually are. They also look a little thicker than they probably are as well. So that, yes, we definitely have different views on socks.
We do.
And that's why we love each other, because
it's okay to have different opinions. It's okay.
We can have nuanced conversation about socks.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that. It's fabulous. But we've really gone on a tangent there. Cathy, what have you been up to other than working hard to combat cybersecurity issues in Australia right now?
I am not combating anything.
Well,
can we just say I am not on the front line of cybersecurity defence.
I still love the idea that you're out there smacking them bots down.
Really, I'm not.
Okay.
I am trying to raise awareness, and I am trying to write content around cybersecurity, and I'm not laughing about it because it's actually very serious, and it's a little terrifying, but it's also a little exciting, because being on the forefront of something is a little kind of exciting, you know.
For sure.
And I do like the thrill of the chase, if you like. That's something that I think if I look over my life and my career and when I've worked, it's, you know, it's always been the next sparkly new thing, and cyber is most definitely the next new sparkly frontier.
Gosh, it really is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And talking about frontiers, like, I just had honestly, all of our listeners, all of our 10 listeners, regular listeners, can also share, and share in my embarrassment. I did have to record a video for upcoming Cybersecurity Awareness Month at work, and we recorded with this. He was a cyber criminal, and he's turned to the good side.
And what was his cyber crimes?
His cybercrime was when he was young, when he was a teen, he got access to some credit cards and bought pizza.
Oh.
for a couple of years.
Wow.
And then he got arrested, and
Oops.
then he was like, I think I'll turn my life around and I will let everyone else know how not to do that anymore.
That's cool. Love that.
So anyway, he was super interesting, but I did manage to drop in a Star Trek reference into the conversation, and I don't even know where it came from because I don't watch Star Trek. And
I don't know. I don't either. So I can't even comment. What was the reference? And
so he was talking about AI and how it's going to be really smart, and it's, coming, like, it's what they call general intelligence, which is our level, and then super intelligence, which is where the AI is going to be smarter than us and we're going to be the pet, is exactly what he said in that example.
That is a worry.
And I said, so kind of like the Borg in the Star Trek movie. And he then went on a Star Trek tangent and was like, oh, wow, bringing out the nerd in me. And I was like, that's kind of all I know.
You lost me at Borg.
I lost myself at Borg, I've got to say. And so then I actually had to come home and Google the reference to understand.
Currently Googling Borg.
If it was in context. And it kind of was a little bit, in that the Borg for the non-Star Trek and basic Google, the Borg would go to a new life species, country, planet, whatever, and they would assimilate, take all their intelligence and get smarter.
So it kind of is.
So it was kind of
a really like smart reference, I think.
I made a kind of really good connection, except I didn't really understand the connection that I made. So anyway, but it is really fun and I'm enjoying it. And so I apologise in advance if I bore everybody crazy with cybersecurity, but we need to really be
more vigilant.
We do need to be more vigilant. And, anyway, I won't give everybody a cybersecurity talk.
We'll come back. When we need an expert, we'll come to you.
Yeah. I'm not the expert, but cool. No worries.
So, Cathy, just a really quick topic for today, because we've been up to quite a bit, actually, with your new job and my sabbatical. We have used up a lot of time talking about those things, but I wanted to bring a topic to you to quickly discuss, and it was influenced by a podcast I've been listening to and also a book I'm reading. The theme kind of came up in both occasions, and I thought, well, that's a sign. It's a sign for me to talk about it with you on The Change. And the theme is, and I was talking to my husband about it just before I started recording, Jules, and I said, we're talking tonight about the good things about being in midlife. And he said, well, that's going to be a short episode. And I said, that's rude. Rude. What do you know? Anyway, it's not a short episode. It's
it never is with us.
No, it's a normal length episode.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah. But I thought this was interesting. So how it came to me was I was listening to one of The Change, our favorite podcast, The Shift, with Sam Baker. She was interviewing an author called Deborah Harkness, who I have not read, but she has written apparently some incredible books, which I'm going to check out, one of which is called The Discovery of Witches, about Salem witches. Anyways, Deborah referenced the term wising instead of aging, and she was talking about how, as women and men, but mostly just women, how as we age, we should start using this term, just interchange it basically, because as we do get older, we get wiser. So we're wising instead of aging, which I really liked. And secondly, I've been reading a book called All Fours by Miranda July, and the main character in the book, does a survey among her mates to find out what the best part of midlife is. And this is quite a sort of key moment in the book, because she's inundated with people coming to her unexpectedly to tell her what they love about being in midlife. And I was like, maybe we don't talk about that stuff enough. And maybe we have a bit of a responsibility to the younger women in our lives and just generally in the community to not make it all seem shit. And I just thought, okay, well, let's focus on some good stuff. Cathy, does anything come to mind for you when you think about what's better now for you than was, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Lots of things.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes, good.
Lots of things.
Mm.
I would like to think I'm a little bit smarter and a little bit wiser, and I would like to think that I know myself a bit better. So I know what is important.
Yes.
Where to put my fucks.
Where those fucks must be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, look, I don't always get that right.
Mm.
But I would like to think that that is something that definitely comes with age, While we might have just been having a flippant conversation about socks, I really I do look at some of the gorgeous young women that we know, that we've worked with, and that I follow, and I just think, man, you are really doing the hustle, and it's really hard for you. But you know what? Maybe you don't need to make it so hard for yourselves. Like, I'm not saying it's not hard. Every generation has it hard. We all have it difficult in our own ways. But really knowing where to put those fucks I think is probably the biggest thing, the biggest joy. And really focusing my time and my effort into the relationships that matter, and just accepting that people come into your lives. Like I know when I was a kid and when I was a teen and when I was in my 20s, like I just and Elizabeth Day talks about this, and she actually wrote a book. I think it was called it's on my bookshelf and I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it. I'm sure it's called Friendaholic.
Right,
and I've read parts of it, dipped in and out of it, and because it's it feels like I'm reading a book in a mirror. It's just a little confronting at times. But I certainly collected friends a lot, and because I thought my value as a person was by how many friends I had. But actually, a lot of people come into your life for a reason and a season, and that's okay. And I can remember thinking, oh, no, I don't have so many friends or whatever. But understanding, and that comes from wisdom, like that's age, And some young people are wise beyond their years.
Totally.
And I look at them and think, oh, you are just incredible. I wish I had an ounce of your confidence or your wisdom at your age, but I didn't. And I was a bit stupid and I was a bit silly and I made a lot of terrible choices. But I think that brought me to where I am today and gave me the wisdom that I have now. And I really understand that I don't need 200 friends. I don't need – I have a handful of friends. Literally I have, 6 really close people that I would kind of turn to. And I just think the importance of understanding that and recognizing that and understanding that I actually only have the capacity to maintain about that many friends in my life.
Yeah.
So I think that's, wisdom is a really good thing.
And knowing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, there's a whole lot of there are some really good things in midlife, just knowing that I don't need to do the hustle. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't look at younger women and I don't get jealous and I don't think, oh my God, why am I not where you are? And that I don't still occasionally feel inadequate about things in life. And I just understanding that it really doesn't matter. And no one, at the end of the day, no one's going to kind of count how many friends I had or how successful I was at work or any of those things.
No.
So there is a lot of joy in midlife. You do have to look for it sometimes.
For sure. And I think it doesn't negate the bad things, the achy joints or the perimenopausal symptoms or the stress of being in the sandwich generation, etc. I don't think doesn't mean that's, doesn't exist, but it's not all bad. And I think that's really important. And I was thinking
another joyful thing, like a really joyful thing, is you get to a point in your life where you don't have to take your kids on holidays, and you don't have to plan a holiday around school holidays.
Oh yeah, you're right there now.
I am right there now, and you don't have to go on holidays when the kids are on holidays. You don't have to spend time in a resort around other people's kids, and you're not worrying about your own kids, right? You can just decide, I'm going on holidays, which I did last week. I said to my husband, I said to Drew, I need to book a holiday. I need a break before I break. And
important.
Really recognizing that, which is something that I didn't used to do. I didn't recognize those sorts of things very well. So that's kind of really exciting. And I know that it's really crappy and it's really hard getting through the toddler years and the, and the teenage years. But they're not all bad either.
No,
right?
That's right.
Teenagers can be bloody amazing and can be absolutely fabulous and loving and joyful, and just because they want you to walk 10 paces behind them when they're at sport doesn't mean that when they're at home they're not cozying up to you on the lounge watching your favourite movie or whatever, So,
and good conversationalists some of the time. Yeah, interesting opinions. I think having older kids is definitely much more my bag. Like, I think I didn't really love the baby phase. Toddlers were very funny, actually. I quite enjoyed the silly.
Did not enjoy
the silly years. But when I look at those mums now, and there's been a changing of the guard. Like I'm now the older mum at the coffee shop with kids at school, high school, and I see the mums with the little kids juggling all the things in the bags and the snacks, and I'm like, I don't miss that. That's definitely a very big advantage for those of us that have kids. And I was just going to say too, just to add to what you said about, I think you have said all the things I wanted to, but that, yes, lived experience. No, God, no, absolutely. No, I was just going to agree with it all, that lived experience, it really counts for something, and having lived a life and had experiences. Everyone of our age has gone through something, and therefore we're just all much more empathic to each other, not always, but just generally speaking. My conversations I have with friends at age 45 are a lot different to the conversations I was having at 25, and they're better, they're deeper, they're more meaningful. I'll always tell people now I love them because, that's the important people I will tell that to, and I'll say how I feel, and you just have a better sense of your own priorities, the people in your life that are important, and it's just such a bigger sense of gratitude for this when things go well, because you're like, well, sometimes they don't go well, and they don't go well for years. It's not just like a bad day that you might have when you're 18, or some people obviously have a lot longer than that, but I think I was very lucky and I had a very happy childhood into a happy young adulthood. So yeah, by now you just know shit can hit the fan. So when it's good, you're like, fuck, my life's great.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful and for all of the things. So yes, that can only come with living through some shit, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't want to paint a picture that life was terrible for me. I grew up in a very privileged environment, and, I made shitty choices, but I was, sometimes life was tough too. So anyway.
Yeah. And look at us now. Here we are, living the dream, Cathy.
It's a real privilege to do this.
It is,
right?
Isn't it? How lucky are we?
How lucky are we? First of all, how lucky are we that our paths crossed?
For sure.
Everything aligned there for us to meet. And I feel like the older I get, and I know this is a bit woo-woo-y, but, when you're meant to meet, those things line up. Everything lines up when people are meant to come into your life, and they don't come in at different times because it's not meant to happen at that time.
Yeah.
And, we met and the stars aligned. And also, we're so lucky that we get to do this as a passion project, right?
Yeah.
not many people do, and which means that while we would love a sponsor, but we have the privilege to do this.
And we have, I guess, a bit of spare time. Our kids are older. Yep. It is, and not to say that it's not hard work, because it is, but it's just we want to do it. So that's why we prioritize it over other things that we might do. Yeah. Like write those books that we keep talking about. No. We've got a podcast.
We will do it. Yeah, that's right. And we did get told by somebody that used to be one of our managers that we technically have probably written enough words to have written a book.
Just not great ones, not good enough. Yeah.
They are great words in and of themselves. Yeah. They just don't come together.
No, they don't align.
Form one entire thread for a book.
This is true. Yeah. No. Oh, well, that's good. I think we have reaffirmed that midlife is not all bad. Other stuff like just like shallow surface level stuff. I think I feel better about fashion and makeup in some ways. Like I remember there was a really confusing period in my late 20s where I was like, I'm too old to wear the young people clothes, but I'm too young to wear the like style pieces that, you see women in their 40s kind of wearing with confidence. Now I'm like, I am in that era. I'll wear whatever the fuck I want.
Well, we did interview some incredible people.
Yeah.
And there's a mother and daughter, without giving away too much.
Yes, coming soon, season 3.
Coming soon, who really just reminded me personally that if you wear something with confidence, then, or if you want to wear that, like if you think that you love it, then you're going to feel good in it. When you feel good in something, usually you look good too.
Yeah.
Like, and ultimately, who's to say that style isn't for you or that style isn't, or you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, and I think some of that just comes from just being able to go, you know what, don't care.
Yeah. It's just clothes and I like it and I feel good in it and, whatever, I don't really care what other people think. So, there's lots of things that are very good about being in midlife, the deep and the shallow, shall we say.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So, tell me, what have you been reading? What have you been listening to? I mean, we did just talk about something that you've been reading.
100%. I'll just refresh your memory. Yeah.
Yeah, and something that I'm sort of dipping in and out of, which is Friendaholic by Elizabeth Day. But, what else?
Well, the book that I spoke of just before was All Fours by Miranda July. And I said I read it. I actually listened to it on Audible. And I loved it. It was such an interesting deep dive. The main character in the book is a creative. She's living in the west coast of America. She's 45 and just everything was very relatable, going through the perimenopause, having all kinds of dramas. And her words on aging I thought was brilliant. I have to buy a copy so I can underline it and kind of think about it some more because it was such a really good read. In parts, it was a little self-indulgent, a little American. I was like, oh, come on, love, move on, or have a cup of tea or just, do something practical. She's very, very...
Are we allowed to be a little self-indulgent?
Yes, we are. We are.
To a point where we're allowed to do that.
I just wanted to... There was a couple of moments I just wanted to slap her and just say, no. No, that is... that's a step too far. That's gone too far. But mostly I really did agree with her and feel that, yes, of course we're allowed to be self-indulgent, especially when we're going through perimenopause. But really 100% recommend, 10 out of 10. Give it a read or a listen or what have you. What about you, Cathy?
Well, so yes, again, I have talked about Elizabeth Day's books. She's incredible. If you haven't read them,
love her little bob as well. Very inspirational haircut, Elizabeth Day.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure I've seen her all over ABC's Instagram recently.
Yeah, talking about infertility and decision to stop IVF. Yeah, she speaks very openly about that.
She is an incredible woman. And yes, so, but I recently went and saw M. Rusciano. She's doing her Outgrown tour.
And who is Em Rusciano for those that don't
So
know?
Em Rusciano was on Australian Idol, like season 2.
Was she? I didn't know
She
that.
was. She
Doing
was.
what?
She was a singer.
What? This is so new to me. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure she was in the, I want to say she was in the top 20. And she definitely made it to the house, like, so to the Australian Idol house.
Yeah.
And then she was on breakfast radio. She's
that's sort of where I was thinking. She's a comedian / media personality.
Yeah. But she was on Australian Idol.
Oh, there you go.
Crazy.
Wow. Okay.
And she's got an incredible singing voice, I got to say.
Mm.
And one of her best mates is Rob Mills, who is my, like, I don't know. It's a weird fascination with Rob Mills because
and he was in and Juliet.
He was also on Australian Idol.
Yes, I know
season
that reference.
1.
Yeah,
he was on season 1
with Guy Sebastian and Shannon Noel. Is that them?
Shannon Noel.
Yeah,
and she often ribs him about the fact that him and Shannon took things too far when they were in the Idol house, and so when she was living in the Idol house, they couldn't party.
Oh.
Because there's a famous jumping off a roof thing that happened in the Rob Mills.
Oh, I do vaguely remember this sort of because I'm pretty sure I was living in Australia when Australian Idol was on. Was it sort of 2001?
Yeah, early 2000s. And and Rob. Actually, I was listening to her podcast with Rob, her other podcast, Emsolation, and they were talking about when they were on Australian Idol.
Okay.
And she was trying to say that her season was better than Rob's season. And
who won her season?
I can't tell you that.
We don't know.
But what I can tell you is that Rob says that when they heard Guy sing, they were like, we're all just here making up numbers. This guy's going to win. Like they knew from the beginning. They were just Guy Sebastian.
Okay, I just did some live on-air research. It was Casey Donovan that won Australian Idol season 2.
There you go.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
So, yeah, incredible. And like, just, So, anyway, she is doing her Outgrown tour.
Yes.
And that came out of her press club address. So for those who don't know, she did a National Press Club address where she stood up, and the National Press Club normally has very serious people and they go and they talk about very kind of boring topics, really. They're just
sort of hot button topics sometimes, but
thought
often
leaders,
political, all
of those kinds of things.
In Canberra,
Yep. It's a big deal.
Yeah, big deal for sure.
Big deal. Anyway, she got invited to a press club address and she thought, well, this is the only opportunity that I'm ever going to get to kind of address this audience. And there's often politicians in the room and, thought leaders and all of that as well. And so she stood up and spoke about her own ADHD and her diagnosis. And she also talked about her son, Elio. And I highly recommend anyone who has someone in their life who might be neurodivergent, whether you think they are, whether they have just had a diagnosis, I recommend really start with her press club address. And then out of the press club address, she wanted to develop a little bit of a resource for people like who had seen that. And then they were like, well, what do I do now? Whether it's something that they were investigating for themselves or a family member or a loved one or whatever. And she's done another podcast, which is a short series. I think it's 6 episodes. And I'm going to butcher the title of it because I do every time I try and say it. But it is called Anomalous. There we go.
You did it. You got it out.
I'm right. I got it out.
Done.
I practiced it like 15 times.
We did.
We went through and got it wrong every time. Sorry.
Don't say it again.
Apologies to M. Anyway, it is fabulous. She takes you on her journey of, and she says journey, no, like journey, we don't use the word journey. She says quest. Around her diagnosis, what she went through, and she also has recently had a diagnosis of autism, and every member of her family, immediate family, husband, 2 daughters and son, and M are all neurodivergent.
Wow.
In some way. They all have, I believe, ADHD of some description, and some are autistic as well.
Wow.
And some are investigating that diagnosis for themselves further as well.
Wow.
So anyway, it is a fabulous podcast. It really takes you on that quest through thinking about it, thinking about what it might mean, what is out there, what options for what you do after you get a diagnosis, because a diagnosis is just a diagnosis, but sometimes you need to think about whether you want medication, whether you don't want medication, how do you do that, and that can be a very tricky route in Australia as well to navigate. And then out of that podcast came the Outgrown
tour.
Stage show.
Wow.
Tour. And she's finishing that up in Melbourne, I think this weekend, at a sold-out show. But there is a show coming in December that she announced at Margaret Court Arena. So if you're in Melbourne in December, look it up. I highly recommend going. I would go again if I could get to Melbourne to see it and all the stars aligned. The show was amazing, and it really resonated a lot with me, partly because, I've talked about it a little bit because of my own ADHD diagnosis, and my daughters have ADHD, and it can be tricky to navigate. So anyway, that's my big reco, really. Anything to do with M's resources around neurodivergence.
Put the links in the show notes to our recommendations, and that sounds really, really interesting. And I did not realize the Idol connection, but she sounds like she's got a lot on her plate with the full.
She sure does.
Yeah,
and she's got some.
And she's really funny
friends.
too. Yeah,
super funny.
Yeah. Love her
great
style.
Friends.
Yeah,
and and her general weekly podcast, Emsolation, is amazing as well. Super funny, and but yes, and Rob Mills was in Anne Juliet as well, which was also fabulous, and has just finished up. He's touring, doing a Bon Jovi show, of all things.
That's very random.
He loves Bon Jovi.
Well,
there you go.
I do too. Anyway. But can't sing, so there we are. Well, let's leave it there. I think that's, we've given you recommendations. We've kicked off season 3, and we have some amazing guests coming at you over the next 8 weeks. 8 to 10 weeks, And we're very excited. We've got some really great chats, so please.
Some really big ones.
Keep listening.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.